China is armed and ready for Trade War 2.0 with Donald Trump. Sign up for Meanwhile in China newsletter, which explores what you need to know about the country's rise and how it impacts the world. In the summer of 2018, when former President Donald Trump launched a trade war with Beijing, the Chinese economy was riding high. There was even talk it could soon overtake the United States as the world's largest. Now, with Trump months away from retaking office, what had appeared to be a juggernaut has been greatly diminished. Contending with property, debt and deflation challenges, China doesn't look ready for another fight. Armed with an understanding about the way the president-elect operates, the Chinese leadership is better equipped to deal with the real possibility of Trump making good on his promise to impose upwards of 60% tariffs on goods sold to the United States, according to economists and analysts, through a combination of trade diversification, targeted retaliation against U.S. companies and support for domestic consumption. China has been preparing for this day for quite some time. The U.S. is much less important to its trade network than it was before, said Dexter Roberts, author of the Trade War newsletter and a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council. In part because of the first trade war which continued under President Joe Biden, Beijing, as well as Chinese companies, have already started actively reducing its trade dependence on the United States. The impact is visible in trade data and has come at warp speed. As recently as 2022, bilateral trade was at a record high. But last year, Mexico overtook China as the top exporter of goods into the United States, according to the Commerce Department. China had held that perch for 20 years before its exports to the United States fell by 20% to $427 billion last year. Just under 30% of China's exports went to the Group of Seven, G7, rich countries last year, down from 48% in 2000, according to Matthews Asia. That's why, despite selling less to the United States, China's share of global exports is now at 14%, up from 13% before the first Trump tariffs. At a press conference on Friday, Wang Shouwen, international trade negotiator and vice minister of commerce, told reporters, "We have the ability to resolve and resist the impact of external shocks. What's unlikely to be in China's retaliatory arsenal are the big, showy moves like selling U.S. Treasury bonds, of which China is the world's second biggest holder, or a major devaluation of its yuan currency, which has lost 12% of its value against the US dollar over the past 3 years as growth momentum slowed. Those dramatic measures wouldn't help," Andy Rothman, China strategist at Matthews Asia, told CNN. The Chinese side typically doesn't tend to retaliate directly in that way.